Smooth 98.1 here. We are Business Express for a hump of the week, Wednesday for the next 15 minutes. Rotus is in with Victa Pepple.
Yeah. And Shepard Martins. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Sope. Good morning, Victa. Good morning to all our listeners, viewers out there. Good to be with you all again.
Yep. Same here. All right. Remember, we're up on YouTube. Hello, youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. So make sure you leave your comments up on that live stream. You can also send WhatsApp messages to 0809-440-981 or take it to Twitter. We are at smooth981FM. Rotus is at Rotanquote. Okay, so Rotus, now the meeting was had, the rates were hiked. What's the reaction?
Yeah, it was a surprise. So, I mean, I don't remember what I said yesterday. Did I say there would be, well, there was a anticipation that it would probably be about 50 basis points from 14% to maybe 14.5, but
150.
Yeah, they went for 150, which I think is if you listening to the governor of the central bank yesterday, seems like inflation is really a problem. And he said in his press conference that it has risen aggressively over the last 4 months. Inflation is at it's 20%. That's headline inflation. Food inflation is 22%. And you remember one of our listeners yesterday openly questioned whether those figures were even correct because for some people, farm food prices have doubled, airline tickets doubled, things like that. So for the average Nigerian on the street, those numbers, are possibly higher. But anyway, that's what is guiding the Monetary Policy Committee of the central bank, that they have to increase the benchmark interest rates. This is like the third time in a row now.
In 5 months, right?
Exactly. So, and I think it's like a 20-year high. So it just tells you that they're trying to, keep up with reining in inflation, and also the amount of liquidity in the system. He did mention also so there's a number of metrics. There's the cash reserve ratio, there's the liquidity ratio. The cash reserve ratio is about a minimum amount that banks have to keep with the central bank. It's supposed to be a tool in case there's any liquidity issues down the line. They can, fall back on that as a backstop. But they increased it to 32.5%. And so you have out of every 100 naira, 32 naira 50 kobo has to be kept. That's what most banks are holding, about 32 naira 50 kobo of that has to be kept with the central bank. They could lend out that money, they could do other things with that money, and the fact that that's being constrained is a hit on the banks. Although interestingly enough, another train of thought says that because election campaigns begin today, that there may have been a move to try and checkmate the amount of naira that's going to be flowing through because of, electioneering, as we call it, around the country. So that is good. Election campaigns spur a lot of liquidity. There's a lot of spending, a lot of buying stomach infrastructure and stuff like that. And so that fuels the amount of prices, that pushes prices up, especially for staples. Basically, I think stomach infrastructure, the staples is not rice and oil. What else is there? So, basically with food inflation at 22%, if you've got, politicians pumping a lot of money into the system to try to, do what they do, then that could also, that could also impact prices. So, I mean, that's just one train of thought. The official line is that, look, we have to curb inflation. So what does that mean for you and I, right? And what does that mean for the folks that are listening to us right now? Your borrowing costs are going to go up. As I said yesterday, we mostly have floating rate loans, which are not, the interest rates are not fixed. The banks will write you a letter saying, due to prevailing economic circumstances, your loan is going up. So that makes, and essentially the thing is try to cool the economy, try to cool inflation, but then the byproduct of that is that you might end up squeezing economic growth. I mean, we're still gradually been growing little by little. I think 3% was what we had in the second quarter of the year, GDP growth. So the impact though is not only the constraint on banks with this CRR going up, but also the fact that with borrowing costs going up, that could make things a bit more expensive. So that will cool demand and possibly, reduce liquidity. But there's a strain that comes with your borrowing costs getting more expensive. So that's
Rotus, in the past 5 years and the last 2, did it do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, so for if you had loans, they essentially got repriced upwards. Every time the interest rates, every time the benchmark rate goes up, the banks do, they do that. So there has been that effect. However, with respect to taming inflation, again, this is the 3rd rate hike in a row, and yet inflation has continued to climb. So we've as we've said in the past, the triggers for inflation in Nigeria tend to be structural issues that may be out of the purview of the Monetary Policy Committee. So as we've said this over and over, the insecurity that affects farmers going to their farms, the bad roads that don't allow food products to be taken over to your tables, our tables where we eat, markets where we can access them, lack of power that doesn't allow proper storage of perishable. I've told you guys, I love strawberries. Plateau States, Jos, is a home of strawberries.
Beautiful strawberries.
Yeah, but I end up paying for imported strawberries from other parts of the world in the stores here because you just can't get them from Plateau State in time because they spoil. Strawberries spoil within days if you don't keep them refrigerated. So all those issues, that's what is pushing inflation, in this country on the food side, So
now, Rotus, we've got some messages coming in, but before I read the messages, I just want to answer, help me out with this, right? So if even as you and I are talking about this, we know it's structural. I'm guessing the Monetary Policy Committee knows the issues with inflation are structural. So why continue with the rate hikes? How much of an effect do they have? And
so
why can't they just leave it status quo?
Well, because they can't, because another reason is other countries around the world are raising rates as well. So you see, they've got so price stability is one of their mandates. Exactly. There's also other mandates that they have as well in terms of trying to keep investors here. So if you, Shokwe, are the United States and Victa is the UK and I am Nigeria, and you, Shokwe, are raising rates in your country, and Victa is also raising rates in his, investors that are with me will say, Shokwe's rates are more attractive. So
now,
money
it's even good that you mentioned price stability. I was going to talk about that. As part of the Monetary Policy Committee, they are supposed to reduce inflation and stabilize, ensure price stability, right? We've seen a constant increase of the interest rate. How is this going to impact the inflation we're currently experiencing? That's number one. Number two, a lot of people have talked about the disparity in our exchange rates. Look at where we are at the banks and look at where we are with the dollar and the pound at the moment. What is the CBN doing to ensure that, we try to close that gap, other than the constant increase in this, what they call it, interest rates?
Great questions. So when you hike interest rates, with respect to inflation, you make things more expensive. When you make cost of borrowing more expensive for firms, for individuals, they pull back on borrowing. And when you pull back on borrowing, you don't have money to use to spend. And when you pull back on spending, if you, Shokwe, you, Victor, me, and everybody listening stops buying things tomorrow, then demand falls for those items and prices will come down. That is the theoretical textbook answer to raising interest rates in order to bring inflation down. So if you all stop buying stuff or you reduce the rate at which you buy stuff, then prices of goods and services will come down, and then inflation will decelerate. But that's demand pull inflation. What we are seeing with the structural issues at Shokwe's question is that they are cost push. They are more infrastructure, which is they really can't do much, but they still have to do something. So the three of us are the three arms of government. I have a role to play in bringing down inflation. Victor, you have a role. Shokwe has a role. So I can't just sit down and say, okay, well, because structural issues are out of the periphery, I can't do my own job anymore. So the MPC has to do something on their part. But more of and this is why the two of you have asked very excellent questions, because the key thing here is that the issue with bringing down inflation falls on the fiscal side. The CBN and the MPC are the monetary side. The fiscal side is government. Do you remember in August of 2019 when they shut down the borders, and the then Minister of Agriculture said that they will lock the key and throw it away in a river or something silly to that effect? They closed the borders. They shut off food products coming in from our neighboring countries. That reduced supply. That is what accelerated inflation from 2019, then the COVID happened and all these other bad things. So it was the fiscal side. Whose job is it to fix roads? Whose job is it to keep farmers safe? Whose job is it to give power? It's not the CBN, it's not the MPC, it's the federal government. So that is why this is CBN implicitly sending a message saying, look, oh, I'm doing all I can here, but it's on your own side as well. So that's the thing. And then the exchange rate, that also falls on the fiscal side. Oil is our major FX source. We have oil theft. We're not producing enough oil. We cannot sell enough oil. We cannot bring in dollars in order to defend the currency. So that CBN can only manage. It's like me shouting at my accountant at my bank, why are you not making more money for me? My accountant will talk to me and say, you're the one bringing in a salary now, only managing the money that you bring in. So that's really, the CBN is just managing. The CBN can manufacture dollars. So that's where we are.
All right, let's quickly take some of your messages. Lenin is in on WhatsApp, says the right target from the policy hike is more instructive from the massive increase in the CRR, which is going to have massive effects on the bank liquidity. The aim to me is clearly the spiraling FX rates, reduce liquidity, that can chase FX and therefore devalue the currency further. In short, it may manage the devaluation in the short term, but will have strong effects on liquidity. Rate rise everywhere.
All right, this one from Wale. Inflation in Nigeria is a result of structural misalignment of the economy. Major influence on inflation in Nigeria is the important components of inflation and poor performance of Nigeria.
And Benga Komu is saying, Mr. Iwani on TV yesterday says, this could encourage savings. I'm wondering how.
Well, so this is the thing. Again, textbook theoretical answer is that if interest rates are going up, your rates on your savings and investments should go up. But have we seen any bank announce to us that our savings rates have gone up? Instead, they tell us it's our loans that are going up. So theoretically, it's supposed to encourage savings and investment, but that's only if interest rates on bonds, on savings, certificates of deposits, those type of things go up. That's if.
Rotus, do you know that economic issues in Nigeria don't obey natural laws of economics? Because when demand falls in Nigeria, the prices stay the same and even go higher.
That is a very factual statement.
True. EIA says, okay, demand pull is for the monetary authority, whilst cost push is for the fiscal authorities. Banks don't manage your money. Take it to an investment bank.
Good point. Good points. All good points today from our listeners. Very good point.
Yinka Bolo is saying Rotus is parrying this cold morning. See, we need to end this talk of oil theft. We are simply not producing enough.
And yeah, we'll take this last one from EIA before we end the show, who says, and yes, banks have written to me that my savings rates are up.
About what rate? Tell us what the rate is, because there's a real quickly, we're out of time. Your real rate of return is the interest rate you earn on your whatever security minus inflation. So if your savings account is giving you 20%, 2%, and inflation is 20%, your real rate of return is negative 18%. So 18. Yeah, that's the issue.
Oh, okay. Who's this? Ade from Isolo. Well, we'll take this last message. So they keep coming. Ade from Isola says, unknown to many, most banks have more of their funds sterilized as a CRR is way beyond the official 27.5%. Some banks already have CRR of about 70% as we speak. Now it has officially moved to 32%. Let's see what will happen.
Very quickly, I know we're out of time, but he's the effective CRR, he's adding the liquidity ratio. So you've got CRR, you've also got a liquidity ratio of 30%. So 30% liquidity ratio plus 32.5% CRR, that is 62.5% effectively. So that's a good message there from our listeners are awesome. They're really sharp. Thanks.
All right. And sorry, you guys will be really sad because the show is over. Rotus, we'll see you tomorrow. Till then, find him up on Twitter at Rotancode. Bye.
All right, bye.
Brought to you by Enter.
If we had to take out one story from Freshly Pressed,